The United States is a Pacific power and it's here to stay. That was the blunt message from Barack Obama in his speech to the Australian Parliament today. It was intended to resonate across Asia and indicates that the US is prepared to back its economic interests with its military might. The message has certainly been heard in Beijing, with a story posted on China's People's Daily website warning that Australia could get caught in any crossfire between China and the US. Political editor Chris Ullman reports.
From the trenches of the First World War to the mountains of Afghanistan, Aussies and Americans have stood together, we have fought together, we have given lives together in every single major conflict of the past 100 years.
The President of the United States of America.
After honouring the past, the President made his case for the future.
This is the alliance we reaffirm today, rooted in our values, renewed by every generation.
And another generation of Australian leaders renewed an alliance struck by John Curtin and Franklin Roosevelt.
For it has never been simply a treaty to defend our interests or to protect our territory. It was then, and it is now, a friendship dedicated to the values we share in the life of the world.
The American alliance is the cornerstone of Australian security, as it has been since we first looked to America in anticipation of the fall of Singapore, and Prime Minister Menzies and President Truman subsequently concluded the ANZUS Treaty.
But the opposition leader again used a state occasion to make a partisan point.
On selling uranium to India, President Obama had the good sense never to change President Bush's policy. In this country, on this policy, the transition from the former government to the current one has been, how shall I say, Mr Speaker, less seamless. But I welcome the government's conversion on this subject.
The President's message was crafted to be heard well beyond Canberra. As America ends two wars, its top priority is now the Asia-Pacific. It's only through access to the markets of Asia that America can rebuild its economy, and it will secure its interests with its military might, even as the parlous state of its finances demand cuts to the nearly $700 billion it now spends on defence.
Reductions in US defence spending will not, I repeat, will not come at the expense of the Asia-Pacific. My guidance is clear. As we plan and budget for the future, we will allocate the resources necessary to maintain our strong military presence in this region. We will preserve our unique ability to project power and deter threats to peace. We will keep our commitments, including our treaty obligations to allies like Australia. And we will constantly strengthen our capabilities to meet the needs of the 21st century. Our enduring interests in the region demand our enduring presence in the region. The United States is a Pacific power, and we are here to stay.
The plan for a greater US military presence in Australia is just one part of America's reposturing of its forces.
Our posture will be more flexible, with new capabilities to ensure that our forces can operate freely. And our posture will be more sustainable by helping allies and partners build their capacity with more training and exercises. We see our new posture here in Australia. The initiatives that the Prime Minister and I announced yesterday will bring our two militaries even closer together.
But the giant panda in the room is China. Despite claims to the contrary, the rise in China's economic and military might is driving the repositioning of US defence assets. The United States is preparing for conflict in Asia, even as it genuinely hopes for peace.
All of our nations, Australia, the United States, all of our nations have a profound interest in the rise of a peaceful and prosperous China. That's why the United States welcomes it. We've seen that China can be a partner, from reducing tensions on the Korean Peninsula to preventing proliferation. And we'll seek more opportunities for cooperation with Beijing, including greater communication between our militaries to promote understanding and avoid miscalculation. We will do this even as we continue to speak candidly to Beijing about the importance of upholding international norms and respecting the universal human rights of the Chinese people.
The United States has a series of large gripes with China. Chief among them is that its undervalued currency makes Chinese exports too cheap and US imports too expensive. And the price of that is precious American jobs. Barack Obama needs his domestic audience to believe that this focus on Asia means growth, but that can't happen if China's gaming the system.
And now our urgent challenge is to create the growth that puts people to work. We need growth that is fair, where every nation plays by the rules, where workers' rights are respected, and our businesses can compete on a level playing field, where the intellectual property and new technologies that fuel innovation are protected, and where currencies are market-driven, so no nation has an unfair advantage.
No matter what the Australian Prime Minister and the US President say, China views the new defence arrangements as aimed directly at containing it. It's not pleased. China's People's Daily has a blunt message today. Under the headline, "Australia could be caught in Sino-US crossfire," it said, Australia surely cannot play China for a fool. It's impossible for China to remain detached, no matter what Australia does to undermine its security. And Indonesia is concerned about the chance of a miscalculation.
I would hate to see is that if such developments were to provoke a reaction and counter-reaction, precisely to create that reverse or a vicious circle of tensions and mistrust or distrust, and that's why it's very important when a decision of this type is taken, there is transparency of what the scenario being envisaged is or are, and that there is no misunderstanding as a result.
It's a concern shared by strategic analyst Hugh White.
The risk that we face is that the Chinese will see this measure, see the measures that have been announced as a significant strengthening of America's position in the Western Pacific and as symptomatic of a broader trend in American policy towards pushing back against China, trying to resist the Chinese challenge to American primacy, using armed force amongst other means to resist that challenge. And of course the problem there is China will be tempted to push back, and America then pushes back again, and we find ourselves into a pattern of escalating strategic rivalry, which would produce a kind of Cold War in Asia that we all really must try to avoid.
Australia's push to get the United States more involved in the region, and the former Chief of Army General Peter Leahy thinks the new defence arrangements make strategic sense. He also believes the advantage for the United States is Australia's proximity to vital trade routes.
We're astride the very important sea lines of communications from the Middle East across the Indian Ocean through the Indonesian archipelago up into the South China Sea. So for sea lines of communications and their security, it's a good thing. But I also think, as we have some concerns about the security situation in the South China Sea, a location in this part of the world is a good spot to be.
From Manila to Jakarta.
But there's no doubt President Obama's message was well received in Parliament.
So God bless Australia, God bless America, and God bless the friendship between our two peoples. Thank you very much.
Under these two leaders, the alliance is closer than ever.